we're here to monetize the suffering right now. I figure I need something to distract me. So what better way than explaining the situation to strangers and try to make something decent out of it. Maybe someone will relate to this. I'm currently at the hospital, wandering around the grounds. I parked outside of the hospital because it costs money to park in a hospital in California. I don't know if it's like that in the rest of the country, but it's like literally like pay to park all over the place. And it's not that cheap either. I feel like they're making plenty of money off of you. I went in for I wanted to like get okay to like go to this event because I've been sick for a couple days. So I went to the doctor and to get a checkup, and it was $240 for them to tell me that I was like fine by strictly just checking my vitals and then asking me questions and doing no other tests. Like she looked down my throat and in my ear and she was like, yeah, you seem fine. Oh, I used to love skating these things. Well, that one's actually in good shape. So a little bit, if you don't know this about me, I get chronic panic attacks. This isn't a panic attack. I didn't have a panic attack, but it's on the cusp. It's cuspy panic attack. But today, right now, I should be at a Thrasher event, the death match. Bunch of friends that are going to be there. I know that people have been enjoying me covering the contests and the skate events, so I'm trying to like stay on top of that. Plus, they're like fun to do. I usually avoid them because bigger social interactions isn't my favorite. I'm not a big fan of small talk. It's a lot of like, oh, hey, how you been? What's up? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, next person. Oh, hey, how you been? What's up? Not a big fan of that. But my experience, this is a cool little bank to wall ride. But my experience at these events haven't been that bad. It's actually been kind of fun. And I keep seeing people that I haven't seen in years, so that's been rad. And I was about an hour into the drive out to like the desert where they're having this event when my legs started feeling very weak. And I started feeling very shaky. The weak legs isn't really a panic attack thing. I don't know what the hell was going on with that. But then all of a sudden I got this overwhelming, I'm completely screwed that I was feeling that just wouldn't go anywhere. And it's very aggressive. So if you ever had a panic attack, you're probably well aware that it doesn't matter how aware of the fact that it's just like your brain misfiring and you're going to fight or flight, regardless of whether there's a reason or not. It's still doing it anyways. The whole time you're like, you're fine. But then your subconscious is like, that's funny that you said that because you're actually dying. So have fun with that. So this was sort of like that, except for it was more like I don't know. Like if panic attacks were hateful, I feel like that's what it would be. Because panic attacks for me are one of two things. Either I feel like I'm actually going crazy, which is the least common of the two. I've only had that a couple times where you start to like kind of lose touch with reality. And like everything just sort of becomes shapes to me. Like I can't comprehend it. But since I can't comprehend it, I don't realize that I wasn't comprehending it until I snap back to reality. And then you're like, holy shit. It's like you like catch your breath and you're like, that was the scariest thing ever. And you're kind of comprehending you not understanding things for this couple seconds. That's the scarier of the two. The other one is that you're dying. I have a heart condition. So naturally all the panic attack symptoms happen to be the same as a heart attack. So that one's always it's a good time for me. My heart will start to hurt. My left arm will start to hurt. It radiates in the same way. I already have heart palpitations, so there's like increase. It's very scary. I have trouble breathing. I get uncontrollable shakes. I've actually on an Instagram story documented one of these. Just distracting myself usually helps, which is kind of part of the reason that I'm doing this one now. But I'm like, yeah, I'm an hour out there and I'm like, I have to go to a hospital. There's no other way around this. You know, when you're throwing up, and you still feel nauseous, but like you're just like, you got to take a break, and you go on the ground and you find that like one position that's like kind of comfortable for you, where it's almost a relief. And it's usually fetal position on the wettest part of the floor for some reason. Like whatever the worst position that you could be on the floor, that's where you need to be. That's like what hospitals feel like for me when I'm feeling panicky. Like I know that when I get there, I'm not going to feel completely better. It's not going to fix anything, but it just gives me a little bit more comfort. Well, that's why I'm here. And so the reason I wanted to talk a bit about this is because I sort of have a unique position. So maybe I think it would help someone who is not in my unique position to showing on how potent this can be for people. So if you don't know, I basically do this for a living, but it's usually like skateboarding with my friends, hanging out, going to events. 5 days on average out of the week, I wake up when I want to wake up. Like whatever time I'm naturally waking up that day, that's what time I wake up. And that is very abnormal to the rest of my life. I've had full-time jobs for a very long time, construction, physical labor. And so transferring into this, it would be impossible not to be like extremely grateful all the time. I mean, if I made a chart of like the times in my life that were the most stressful and the times in my life that were the best, it would be very, very condensed to the past, like mostly 3 years, specifically 6 months things have been really, really good mentally and everything else. I really have things laid out the way that I want them to be. I really like what I have going on with YouTube and the way that I've been making videos. But even with all of that, I still find myself having these incredibly difficult mental times that seem to have nothing to do with my circumstance. So for example, I think, my life's pretty sick. I'm pretty happy right now. Today was about to be an incredible day. I was super excited to go do this thing. And here I am at a hospital freaking out, being at like a extremely high level of stress and disappointment in, just about everything. It's pretty abstract. It's not like, it's being very down on your situation, but it's like not real. Like it's not actually like I feel this way. It's just like you're going through the motions as if you feel that way. Because I'm not necessarily thinking of negative things about my life. I'm only feeling that my life is negative, if that makes any sense. And the intensity of this stress and panickiness is the exact same intensity that it was when I was living in my van and I was super broke and I felt like such a burden to just exist when anyone around me. I felt like just being very not happy with the way that I would interact or think or feel naturally, as well as like financially extremely unstable. Had no real grasp on like what I was gonna do in the future as far as like, man, am I gonna like ever figure it out? Am I just gonna work like physical labor jobs for the rest of my life and end up like so many people that I've worked with and under, and how much I did not envy their life? And there was definitely points in time where I came to like accept that reality, like, okay, that's where I'm gonna end up, let me make the most of it, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Someone's gotta work those jobs, and if it was gonna be me, well, I guess it was gonna be me. But even then, with all this like uncertainty and kind of real life difficulty, this feels exactly the same now as it did then, even though I'm living in California now. I used to live on the East Coast in a not very fun area. The last place I lived before I moved out here was Hanover, Pennsylvania, which is not the best. There's just nothing to do there but hard drugs. It's just not the best place to live. I think I see a skate spot over here. This area looks new. We're gonna go over there, keep talking. And so another thing that kind of comes along with this is like a bit of guilt. Like, oh man, you're gonna waste today. You're gonna have to be a recluse today because you're like sad or you feel some sort of way about how sick your life is, which I make myself snap out of that pretty fast because I'm like, no, this isn't actually how I feel. It's just like my brain is misbehaving. I don't have any deep thoughts or well-constructed assumptions that make me feel the ways that I feel. It just happens. I just automatically feel that way. It feels very, like you're kind of going crazy in a little bit, like, because your brain's not adding up with what you're actually seeing and feeling. Well, this is real sick. Hold on. It has the bumps right here, but then no crack. Out rail with a bear trap. Where you would get on the rail is probably like, 4 inches taller than your average skate park flat bar. It looks good. Anyways, back to wah. But yeah, I think it's gonna echo in here. It feels like when I get like this, it feels similar to depression in the way that like, and I'm no psychiatrist, but the way that I personally, probably not the actual definitions of it, but the way that I separate like depression and being sad is like sad is based on circumstance. Something happened to me. I lost a friend. I am sad. And then depression is just like my brain is just deciding that I'm sad for no reason. And it feels more like, sad might not even be the right word. It just feels negative. My brain is all of a sudden negative and it's beating up everything around me. It's beating up the people that I like. It's beating up the things that I like, and it's beating up me. Everything I look at, it's just this negative, like, no. And I'm aware that it's bullshit, but I'm also aware that I'm unreasonable. Like I'm unconsolable. So when I feel like that, usually I kind of stick to myself, and it's sort of what I do when I feel like this too. I just don't want to be around anyone because I know how illogical I actually am. Like even right now, I feel like I'm speaking pretty logically, but this is not how I feel. This is just how I'm describing it because I know what's going on. I'm not feeling anything that I'm saying right now. Right now, I feel like shit and it's dumb and not embarrassing in the sense that I'm worried about what other people think about it, because I'm like, people go through this. This is not the craziest thing. Other people have this experience. I'm embarrassed because I feel like I should be able to snap out of it. You should be able to see a circumstance, you would think, and be like, yeah, this isn't how I should be feeling. Let me work on it. And you just can't. It's like the joke of when someone's like, oh, I'm sad. And then someone's just like, oh, just try feeling better. Except for in this circumstance, you just can't find a valid reason to be sad. So you're like, just extra annoyed about it. It's almost like a vicious cycle. And I am smiling a good bit because when I talk about it, I do see the absurdity of it. Like, it's just so dumb, dude. It feels almost childish, like how kids don't know how to interact with their own emotions. But I do. I've been around for a second. Now, I have done stuff for this. So, for example, I was put on sertraline, which is an SSRI, and boy, did that help. It did. At this point in time, I was getting panic attacks and having like these episodes 3 or 4 times a week, which is a crazy, crazy, crazy amount. My hair started going gray. Like, the reason I have gray hair right now, it started happening during that. And it's like, I don't know, it was like 9 months that I was getting them just about every other day. And the amount of stress that I was going through in that time, even though it wasn't necessarily based on reality, even though that was a very stressful time in my life, was crazy. I definitely lost years off my life because of that. And what sertraline does, and I don't know what it actually does, but I'm gonna give you my experience. Imagine, here's your flat line of how you normally feel. And down here is not good. This is sad, this is anger, this is all your negative emotions. And up here is like happiness and joy and fulfillment. And normally you have a rubber band that holds you to the middle line. And the further into either of them you go, you feel more resistance. So it's pretty hard to feel extremely, extremely happy. Usually you get up here with like the best day of your life, winning something incredible, or drugs. Drugs immediately will transport you down to the lowest part of here when you're done with them. Don't do that. And then going down here, like, it's, you know, you can feel sad, you can feel a little down, but it's pretty hard to like really fall into those super desperate moments of solitude where you think to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna finish Infinite Jest. And I think it's time I rewatched All Dogs Go to Heaven. Like that sort of self-inflicted pain and hatred that you can get, not the easiest place to get to. And usually you get there from some very bad circumstance. What SSRIs do to me, or how I would explain it, is it takes that rubber band and folds it in half and then keeps it in the middle. So you stay more in the middle, but it is twice the amount of resistance to go up and down. So you can feel like a little happy and that's normal. Like there's no resistance to get there, or a little sad and that's normal. But the second you're trying to feel like deep, serious, thick emotions, it's really, really hard to get there. Now you can get there, it just takes way more to do it. And I was not aware of this side effect because you're constantly feeling normal. These drugs don't make you feel different. They don't make you feel happy. They don't make you feel sad. They just keep you in the middle. And when you feel normal all the time, it's hard to realize that that is actually not normal. And so when you would go to feel like, you know, crazy from a panic attack, it was just harder to get down there. I feel like I was like almost there a bunch. And then I just would never break through. And while I was on sertraline for 2 years, I had, I think, 3 panic attacks the entire time, which is the least I've ever had. But I also never really had like really incredible, amazing times, even though this is the beginning of the arc of my life getting very good. Right when I got on sertraline is basically right when I started my YouTube channel, which random side effect, by the way, of that medicine for me. And it went away. It only lasted like maybe 2 weeks. But this own weird removal of like my own judgment, and I would like say stuff. It's weird. I found myself saying stuff just to get reactions out of people, or I was just like so curious about like what another person might think if I was like acting a certain way. Like it turned me into Nathan for You. And it lasted 2 weeks, and I still to this day can't like figure it out. Because I've never really like brought this up to people that I feel like I was that way around, but I was absolutely that way. It was very bizarre. I remember specifically working and I was so detached from my own normal personality traits, I guess I would say. I don't know. It was weird. I felt like it turned me into a blank canvas for just like 2 weeks, and then I was like back to normal. That was my experience in the beginning. And then getting off of sertraline, which I haven't been on sertraline for about 2 years, you get these things called brain zaps. I have stuff about this on my second channel where I'm like documenting like me going through it, which is weird. It's like this weird electrical feeling that you get in your head. But the lasting effects of getting off sertraline is that rubber band doesn't come unraveled and goes back to normal. It's still tight, and it takes a long time for it to go back. So when I first got off, I didn't realize that I was really lacking in a lot of emotional range. And I think I've had problems with empathy just in general in my life. Circumstance, decisions I've made, things that have happened to me. Empathy, not my strongest suit. And I've had this conversation with a lot of friends. But it's been 2 years now, and I feel like maybe in the past 6 months, that rubber band has finally like fully expanded. And it's like now I realize how much less emotion I was experiencing. And I was trying so hard to fix, like, you know, like I saw a therapist and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And I was trying so hard to fix what I felt was like my issue with empathy, because I had sympathy all day. I could always look at a situation and be like, oh man, that sucks. Like, let me help out. Let me talk to you about it. This is what I think should be done. But there wasn't that emotional connection. I didn't feel it. I just understood it. And I think from rubbing my nose in the lack thereof for so long now, I've kind of forced myself to be, I kind of accidentally made myself a little overly empathetic. I've been a crying boy for the past 3 months. Like, I have to avoid my Instagram Explore page now because I watch so many like emotional videos, and I just like, dude, there's only so much you can take, dude. And I would say all in all, my experience with being put on an SSRI was incredible. It was a great decision, helped me a ton. I think my brain did learn stuff that I still keep with me. I feel like I have more access to the person that I am instead of being so distracted by like, you know, the age old, the one that society gives you, and then the one that you put on for other people. Like, I feel like I'm constantly interacting with my actual core self, which sounds really simple and easy, but I feel like most people don't do that because it's just so easy to get caught up in life. And I mean, your interactions with everyone is what you're doing 24/7. So that would probably be your main focus. And yet with all of that I feel like I figured out, here I am still wandering around a hospital talking to a phone because it's keeping me distracted from how irrational I know that my brain is being right now. And the best thing that I have found for dealing with this situation, what I do every single time I start feeling this way, is just wait it out like the slow parade it is. And I think when you accept that you just have to wait, when you accept that all of these feelings doesn't have a quick fix, because I feel like when you're looking around for a quick fix and you're like, oh, well, let me try to think of it this way, or let me go do this thing, and it's not getting any better, it makes it worse because now you're constantly failing at something on top of dealing with all these emotions. Now it's sort of like, okay, let me buy a pack of Milk Duds, find a comfortable place to sit, which is definitely a metaphor. I don't eat anything and I definitely move around a bunch, but just ride it out. I have particularly long versions of this, specifically my panic attacks. On average, stuff that I see online, it's like 20 minutes to an hour. I've had like, I don't know, full days of a panic attack. Like, it's literally just does not let up. And when it finally does, oh my God, to go back to the metaphor of when you're puking and when you finally are done puking and you get that relief, that, oh, and I swear to God, every single time my heart does this relief beat where it's like, bump, bump. And you're like, oh my fucking God, it's over. Thank God. Like, you know it's over, like almost the instant that it's over. Oh, it's not worth it, but that is one of the better feelings in life, is when your panic attack finally just chills the fuck out and you just lets go of you. But these ones that I'm dealing with right now, and I think it's because I've done so much work with my panic attacks, the insane amount of stuff that I've read up on it tends to feel more like mental breakdowns than panic attacks, because it's not as often that I get to the point where I'm like, you're dying, you need to go into the ER, you need to see someone, because the amount of money that I've spent going into an ER is insane. The fact that I'm not in debt now, like, if this YouTube thing wouldn't have worked out, my life would have been so not great. Because even though with the jobs that I was working, I was definitely making money, I had no time and no bandwidth to deal with the situations that I'm in, which is one of the reasons that I thought it would be good to share, because someone who comes from a maybe not so privileged life knows how hard it is to make time for thinking about things like this. Because let's say it's not even an overtime job. I think most people right now are working over 40 hours, especially in the blue collar world that I come from. But you're working 40 hours, you're driving home from work, and then you sort of like rush into this like, well, I need to make time for me to relax. And a good way for you to relax isn't thinking about your problems and trying to sort them. It's usually either going and doing the hobby that you love, that you will not think about anything else while you're doing, or you're just watching television or some sort of thing that takes you out of how you're feeling or how your day was and puts you into something that's usually like pleasant, or at the very least non-threatening and docile. Whereas I feel like I have a good bit of bandwidth and free time to sort of sort these things out. And ever so selfishly, what I do spend most of my time doing when it's like free time and I'm not skating, editing, hanging out with people, all the normal stuff, is I am taking inventory on what I think and feel about a lot of things. And I will literally run down the line of like, this might sound so silly. I'll be like, how do I feel about skateboarding? Do I still love skateboarding as much as I did before? Do I want to keep doing this? How do I feel about doing YouTube? Is it still bringing me joy? How do I feel about spending time with this person? Should I continue to spend time with this person? Do I feel lonely? Do I feel needy? And this sort of, I mean, I guess you could call it meditation, selfish meditation. I don't know anything about meditation, but doing that stuff, my middle line that has a rubber band around it, I think is a little bit higher because, one, circumstantially, my life is ideal for the kind of person that I am. And then on top of that, I have time to sort myself out a lot. And even with all of those things in my favor, I still get this. I still deal with this. So if you're dealing with this, I think the hardest thing to do, but the best thing to do, is to not mythologize it and not let it like just run your fucking day. Like, just know that it's gonna pass. You know, I haven't necessarily found a way for me to be able to work through it, like go about a normal day when I feel this way. I do have to stop the day, but definitely know that it's gonna pass. If you haven't checked out medication for it, I'm not a big medication guy. I kind of hate medication. I don't take anything for anything anymore except for melatonin to help me sleep. But I 1000% do not regret being put on sertraline, or it's generic for Zoloft. I think it helps me out a lot. So maybe talk to some people about that. Ask your friends who have been on it. It does absolutely demolish your sex drive. That is like an almost guaranteed side effect of it, which probably isn't the worst thing. It gives you one less thing to think about. And we're gonna be right back on regularly scheduled skateboarding stuff. If I'm being completely 1000% honest, I just wanted something to distract myself. And the only reason I know this is gonna end up on my main channel is because I haven't been able to film anything for the past 12 days. So I know for a fact I need to post something. And of course, the vast majority of people who watch my channel watch it for my documentation of other people skating or me goofing off. So the viewer retention to this video is gonna be crazy low, but hopefully, you know, someone listens to it and they're like, oh yeah, like, this is the thing that a ton of people are going through. I remember specifically talking to this guy named Zach, who also had panic attacks, and he went to therapy for it, and he basically just relayed his findings to me of what they told him. And it helped a lot just to know that, like, oh yeah, same circumstance. The feeling of being not in control is extremely overwhelming. It almost makes you feel a little bit more in control knowing that you're supposed to not feel in control when you get this. You can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps to get through this. You just gotta wait it out. So if someone's having a panic attack around you, you know, someone who has it, if you've never had one, or maybe you're confusing anxiety attacks with panic attacks because those are completely different things. Trust me, they're most likely doing everything they can, and there's not a lot you can do. Ramping up a little bit right now, so I'm actually gonna go inside for a little bit and sit in the waiting room, and then hopefully not have to go in. See, talking about it, I swear to God, I get it. Doesn't change the fact that I'm like, and my heart condition does not help. It just makes it so much scarier. Okay, normal skating tomorrow.
It's later that night. It's 11 p.m. I got to get up kind of early to go to an event tomorrow. But yeah, still sort of feeling the symptoms, but not as bad as they were. In case you were worried about how the rest of my day went. I did go into the hospital for a bit, but I didn't see anybody. Sometimes I just hang out in the waiting room. I don't know. It just helps. So yeah, I'm not fully back to normal, but I'm feeling better than I was then. And I should wake up tomorrow feeling, if I had to guess, fine. Sometimes it just takes a long time. And once again, it's hard to explain. This is not a panic attack. It's this panic attack-like thing, but it's more just negative, you know? Maybe it's some weird form of temporary depression. I don't know what it is. But it's annoying. I don't like it. All right. I'm going to finish editing the video that you're watching right now. All right. Goodbye.